Hi, and welcome to Revision Media with me, Paul Stevenson. I welcome you here tonight, and wherever you are around the world, the beauty of internet radio is that you can listen wherever you are around the globe. And of course, we are facing global, unprecedented, precarious times at the moment with this coronavirus. Coming up with me tonight, I have a gentleman and a Christian apologist, Andrew Carter. Andrew studied theology, Bible and worldviews at the African Bible University in Kampala in Uganda. Before that, he was the pastor of Therfield Chapel for 9 years. This is an evangelical church in North Hertfordshire. He trained at Oak Hill Theological College before obtaining an MA in Systematic Theology at King's College in London. He's currently studying for his PhD with the University of Durham on the writings of the late Christian apologist Francis Schaeffer. I would say one of the greatest Christian apologists in the history of the church, probably up there, well, maybe even better than the likes of Greg Bonson and those sorts of people. And anyway, he also has a degree in economics and politics before teaching A-level in economics for 3 years in Mombasa, Kenya. And later, he was 7 years at Lycée Français in South Kensington, London. So he's very well qualified to discuss this whole coronavirus from a Christian worldview. We'll look at the economic impact of it as well, and all the various tentacles and implications of this really, as I say, unprecedented situation that the world finds itself in. Are you with me, Andrew?
Yes, I am. Good evening. Good evening to you, Paul. Perhaps good morning in America. Not sure if it's still morning or early afternoon, but anyway, it's good to be on your show.
Yeah, and you're very welcome. I will say I met you at a presentation you did in Hayes, which is a town which is not too far from me, and it was refreshing to have someone who's so clued up on a Christian worldview. It's kind of ironic and probably a little bit tragic that you don't tend to find people in the church so often who even understand the concepts of a view.
Yes, I think that's right. I think I often say if you don't think in a worldview way, then you're not thinking at all. And it reveals to us the fact that for a lot of the Christian church and a lot of Christians today, the kind of thinking the mind is off limits. And so we think that Christianity is just about having some experience of God and using your mind to think through the world and to understand the way the world is just something you don't find is very common. So coming at the world in a kind of worldview way and saying, how do we answer the biggest questions of life? Why is the world here? What is a human being? Who am I? What is wrong with the world? What is success in life? What happens when we die? These big worldview questions which we have to face, issues which are hugely contested in the world. We don't come at our faith from that basis of saying, how does the Christian faith answer these? We come at it from an experiential perspective, and that's enormously unhelpful because, obviously Christianity is an experience of God. We encounter God, we come to know him experientially through our affections. But the Christian faith is the engagement of our emotions, but it's also the engagement of our will and our mind. The whole of the human person's involved in being a Christian. And it just means that we are emasculated from engaging with people about the big issues of life. It's the passion of my life is to get Christians to think. I go back 25 years of my life when I came in touch with the debris movement and Francis Schaeffer's kind of writings and his movement, and just meeting people, Christians who were thinking, who were engaging with the world. It was a kind of revelation to me. When I first became a Christian when I was 18 years old, I kind of experienced revival. But later on, I went through something even more powerful, which I would call reformation, which was the transformation of my mind to think for Jesus. And yeah, we need a whole generation of thinkers for Jesus. And it needs to be our priority. Anyway, yep.
Yeah, for me, it happened a bit later. I was 38 when I what Christians would typically refer to as being born again, receiving the Holy Spirit, etc. And and also, at that time, it was an intense period of studying the Scriptures. And it was, Paul talks about it. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind with the Holy Spirit. And then the Scriptures going in there. The worldview was established, and to some extent, Isaiah spoke about it. With great knowledge comes great sorrow, because you do find, just the sort of stuff we're talking about, the worldview stuff. We've got so many kind of, I think I mentioned to you when I met you, we've got all sorts of Eastern mystery type philosophies merged in with Christianity. This sort of phenomenon of syncretism. We've even got the sort of the secular health type model, in there as well, which sort of is not Christianity. I mean, you could go on.
Yes, absolutely. We do have all kinds of syncretisms, and I think a lot of the problem with the Christian Church in our theology is it goes back to Greek philosophy, where we kind of follow Plato and we divide up the world into two parts: the spiritual and the secular. He didn't call it that, but that's the best way for us to understand it. So that you have your kind of Christian world, which is perhaps what you do on Sunday. It's your prayer life, perhaps your evangelism, your kind of religion. Church world. Yeah, religion. You might call it religion. Yeah, that's right. And that's in a separate category to life. And so the rest of life is not impacted by the gospel. That's kind of neutral. This kind of divided life Christianity. And of course, the tragedy of it is that in accepting that or conceding to that, we've done exactly what the Enlightenment Project wanted us to do. The Enlightenment Project wanted to take most of the world that it would call secular out of the domain of Christianity and say, you can have your religious little world over there, you're tucked away over there, your bit of religion, but we will control the world of reason and of science and of facts, and you can have your world, which is kind of irrational, your little spiritual bit over there. You can have that, but we will control the rest. It's we might call this the privatization of Christianity. So it's in a little private sphere, but the public world is controlled by the secularists. So where we see that that's so wrong is to recognize that a true way of understanding the world from a biblical perspective is to say that this is God's creation. The whole lot of it's God's. How we do, how we raise our families, how we do marriage, how we run a business, how we educate, how
our money.
Our money, how we involved in our leisure time. All these things are how we do art. All these things are part of the original created order, that God wanted us to have all these things under his rule and be part of our worship, that we would show our worth towards God by doing them under the authority and rule of God. And but what's actually happened is that and so what happened was in the fall, that all those things were corrupted by sin, and the job of Christians is to bring all of those domains, spheres of life under the lordship of Christ and see all of them redeemed for him, including our thinking, of course. But actually, what we've not done that. We've lost our creational sense. We've thrown away the fact this is God's world, and we just think that Christianity is just a bit of religion and the rest of everything is neutral. And so this is why we've not formulated a sense of, for a lot of church, not formulated a sense of Christian education for our children. And so we just allow them to be shaped by atheists who control our secular education system without giving it a moment's thought. And we are enormously culpable in this. This is the greatest accommodation of the Christian church to the world, is that we've just abandoned the public arena.
Retreated into private worship. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's an indictment of us, really, because we've done. We think that the more otherworldly we are, the more spiritual we are. But actually, it's the opposite of that. the more we retreat from the world, the less spiritual we are, because actually we've given up God's world to the atheist and said, "Oh, you can have it; it's yours." You can. We've got nothing to say about economics. We've got nothing to say about how we understand history. We've got nothing to say about how we do how we study science, or how we raise our children in terms of their learning, and that's a terrible tragedy. We've conceded away the very essence of this being God's world, God's created world.
Yeah, I mean, it's a world of darkness. Sadly, too much of it's in the church as well, and it's an unnecessary darkness. Jesus said in John 8, if I'm correct, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." And as I say, it's this phenomena where this religiosity of going to church on a Sunday, probably feeling good, maybe getting a nice little warm feeling for a couple of hours, if even that, and then the rest of the week, for the heavy lifting, we can, we might look at some of these profound sounding Buddhist philosophies and mixed up with the secular ideas, and as you say, some of these other type Greek philosophical ideas, and there's no power there. There is a scripture that's coming to my mind that there's a veneer of religiosity, but denying the power of it, of
Yes.
Christianity.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's what we do. So we've lost something. So what we should be trying to do is turn the world the right way up, so that it's a Christ-centered world. As Abraham Kuyper said, that there is not one square inch of the world that Christ doesn't claim as his, something like that. It's all his.
Matthew 28:18.
Yeah, that's right. And until we recognise that, the church is not going to impact the society. On Friday I went to a meeting on abortion. Talk about abortion later, maybe. I went to a meeting on abortion just across the Mersey River. I live in Liverpool, across the Mersey River on the Wirral, and it was a profoundly helpful meeting about abortion and how we should be thinking about it as Christians. I think that there were 15 people there, and an invitation had gone out to 30 churches. We're not engaging with the public square and saying, how do we think about a huge issue of depravity in our society? People aren't interested. That there's probably all sorts of reasons why, but if we can sing our songs on Sunday, and as you say, go home and have a warm feeling and say we've met with Jesus, we think that's the kind of that's the limits of what Christianity is, and that's the sad thing.
We're talking about here the state of the church and how it's allowed itself to deteriorate.
There is a need for all of us who want to think for Jesus as well as to sing for him, to shape others to do it. But of course, when you try to do it, you find a lot of people aren't interested, and you also find just an unwillingness to read serious books, or to listen to serious discussion on YouTube. I mean, we have resources open to us that were undreamt of in generations gone by, or even when I was growing up, the internet didn't exist, and
it's amazing.
It is amazing. So if you know the right sites to go to, I mean, why don't we all listen to Al Mola when we're washing the dishes at night, or whatever we're doing, and just listen to his cultural commentary on his briefing. That's just one example of what we could be doing to think through the kind of issues that are going on. I mean, Al Mola, it is very much an international focus that he has, not just an American one, because we need to be abreast of events.
How do you spell his name?
Mola is. Let me have a look. I think I'll better check. I think it's. So it's Al, A-L, and then Mola is Mohler.
All right, great. I'll check it out.
LER, and it's the briefing. And he does a daily commentary on world events.
Yeah. I mean, the
And
internet is wonderful. I mean, you said I had been going to churches for about 18 months when I was seeking and stuff like that. And I don't know, I just felt something was missing. And there certainly was something missing because I heard the gospel in 2014. Now I look back and the Lord was drawing me and working on me probably for a couple of years before that, and I'd been developing a Christian worldview. And then I heard the gospel for real by a guy called Steve Gregg. He has a website called The Narrow Path, and that was the first time I had ever heard the gospel, and I heard it on YouTube, and that I was born again as a result of listening to that online. So there's no excuse in today's. There's almost too much information.
Yeah, that's right. There is no excuse. I mean, the resources available to us. I mean, or just in terms of books, there's been an avalanche of books that have been written in the last 30 years, which to me are encouraging, but sometimes I wonder, are we on the verge of another reformation? Because the kind of intellectual roots have been laid by a whole lot of thinkers for that. And of course, our job is to go and read them and to engage with, some of the thinkers who've come. I mean, this isn't going back to Francis Schaeffer. Francis Schaeffer was a kind of lone voice back in the 1950s, 60s, 70s. But Schaeffer was a man who, wanted to get out of a kind of devotional, pietistic Christianity to say, how do we engage with the ideas of the culture? What is the culture saying about those big questions? Why the world is here? What is a human being? What are we doing on this planet? What is success in life? Those huge questions.
Yeah, why am I here? What's it all about?
Absolutely, those questions. Schaeffer was saying, what is our culture saying about them? How does it come out in music and in the theatre and in art and all those things? How does it come out? How is it revealed? Because the culture in many ways is the culture really is the external and visible expression of an internal invisible worldview. So if you want to understand the worldview, you have to look at the art that the worldview produces, that the culture produces.
If you could be so gracious to call it art. I said if you could be as gracious to even call it art.
Yes, well, I think Schaeffer. A lot of what's produced today is shocking in terms of its content, but I think Schaeffer would have said that art reveals the tragedy of a generation that's lost, in its appalling nature, so Schaeffer was saying, what does art say to us about the culture, even if it is a parody of what art should be, how do we reach that generation? And of course, Schaeffer was talking to people who were the 1960s baby boomers who were in rebellion against society, the hippie movement, and lots of them went off to the east to try to find themselves, to find Eastern religion, following the Beatles and others, and many of them came back disillusioned with the East. There's no answers in the East in the end. Kind of pantheism. Lots of them came back, and Schaeffer welcomed them into his home in Switzerland at Le Brie, the shelter, and many of them became Christians. But he was talking to them about issues that they were talking about. They were saying, "What's it mean to be human? What's it mean to live? What is? How do we? What's it mean to find yourself?" Lots of them had read the existential philosophers. And the novels of Jean-Paul Sartre and other people, and Camus. They'd read the existentialists, and Schaeffer was able to Nietzsche, yes, Nietzsche. Schaeffer was able to talk their language. He knew where they were coming from. He knew the pain, the hurt, the Schaeffer, the need. Schaeffer understood the emptiness of life without God, the tragedy of life without God.
I know. I mean, I spent 38 years in that condition, and I'd reached the end of my line at that point. I just thought, what is this about? I needed some answers, and luckily I found them.
Oh, totally. I mean, our society is bankrupt of purpose. I mean, you can run on the fuel of materialism for a while and entertainment. I mean, I often say our society is like a bicycle with two wheels. One of them is consumption of goods and services. Buying stuff, materialism, and the other wheel is entertainment. And they are they are they are dependent on each other, but particularly entertainment follows. That's the second wheel on the bicycle. Entertainment follows materialism because the materialism is the economy enables you to have your consumption of goods and services, and also you have to have your entertainment, which we were addicted to entertainment, whatever it is, Netflix or goodness me, BBC dramas. And if either of those two wheels come off, and at the moment we're looking at a very serious situation in the world in terms of our economy, what would we do? I don't know how we would cope if we didn't have the shopping malls to go and have our fix of buying stuff, or be able to watch the latest Hollywood movies. I mean, I don't know what we do. I mean, these are drugs, addictions that just
distract.
Help people tick over. Yeah, distraction, absolutely distraction.
Okay, we'll leave it there for part one with Andrew Carter of Challenging Thinking. It was quite a long video and there's a lot of content there. I'm aware that when videos go beyond 70, 80 minutes, it tends to challenge a lot of people's attention span. So I'll leave it there, and I'm going to break that interview, which was a long one. I think it was over 90 minutes, into three parts, because there was a lot of themes came up in that. But that was Andrew Carter of Challenging Thinking, so do check out his blog. Also, I always forget to ask and to mention it, but if you can donate to the channel, it would be appreciated. I understand everyone's in difficulties, and this whole coronavirus has been a disaster for the economy and for jobs for lots of us, including me. I've lost my job at the moment until I find something else. I'm hoping it blows over here for 3 weeks, but just generally, I always forget to ask, but if you can support the channel, then please do. It's you can do that on PayPal, on my email, which is Stevenson_P5@sky.com. That's STEVENSON_P5@sky.com. As I say, it's very much appreciated, even if you can only give $2. If there's enough people giving a couple of dollars, it really does help, and particularly in these times. And also share the videos, share them on your Facebook page, share them to your family and friends. We've got to get the word out there for those of us who are trying to spread the biblical and the Christian worldview properly, including in your church, obviously, as we alluded to in the interview. And when you look at the economy today, it is an economy which is based on anything but biblical economics. So don't forget, as I say, to like the video. If you can give it a like below. It's always great to hear from you in the comments as well. And as I say, share, and if you haven't already subscribed, do subscribe. That all helps as well. I'm not an expert in algorithms and all that type of stuff, but I was talking to someone the other day. Apparently one of the big things is when it comes to video content, which YouTube and or Google overlords oppose, is to affect the recommended videos, so they don't recommend your videos to people, because I think that's what has been happening to my channel. I had about 8 videos outright deleted last year in a very short period of time, out of about 6 weeks, probably because of some of the interviews I conduct with some of the people I interview, and one particular topic, obviously, and one particular group that we're really not allowed to talk to. Anybody who listens to my channel will be aware of who I'm talking about. So do share the videos out, and so we can try and counter that a little bit.
I think the other thing they do that they can turn off notifications, and they can even unsubscribe people and that type of thing. Anyway, I've rambled enough, and we'll get part 2 on that up on the channel soon. Do tune into Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. That's 4 till 5 Eastern Time, 9 till 10 p.m. here in London. That's Revelation is my show on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And also just after that, from 5 p.m. till 6 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 10 till 11 here in the UK, 10 till 11 p.m. here in the UK. My other radio show, which is on revisionmedia.org, which is a startup radio network, started up last year.